Go out, teach all nations, which means only all nations because we were scattered into all nations. Like we're in Libya and Congo and different parts of Africa. We're in Spain, we're in Russia, we're in China, we're in Japan, we're in Rome, we're everywhere. So that's why the Bible says teach all nations. So we don't not teach anybody that wants to come up and understand the word of God. We just teach who the Israelites are according to the word of God. And that's why it says this. Read on.
The book of Romans chapter 8 verse 16. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit.
So that's why we said earlier, this Bible is not just words. It actually has spirits behind it. It has a spirit behind it that God put in it. So the things that was written in there, read, bear what?
The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit.
That the things that we read in the Bible, we bear witness with those experiences. That's why we bring out the slave ships. That's why we bring out the black on black crime. That's why we bring out the problems in our community. Because we bear witness with the things that's written in this Bible. So if your spirit bears witness with that, dating back to who you were through the prophecies, then guess what? You might be an Israelite. Right? The Spirit bears witness with our spirit. Watch this. No knock against, I'll just say, a Chinese person, right? But they didn't experience going into slavery on slave ships. They don't experience the poverty that we experience. Now I'm not saying that they don't, maybe in China, because we know it's poverty over there, but there's also built up places like here. But nobody goes through what we go through as a nation. Nobody's been through what we've been through. How you take a whole nation and you enslave a whole nation? Blacks and Hispanics. Nobody's ever been through that. So the things that's written in the Bible that we're going to talk about, you are going to be able to bear witness with them. Because why? It shows who we are. Right? Go ahead, Austin. You want the 2845? Oh, yeah, read that. I'm sorry. Finish that off.
Yeah. Romans 8 verse 16.
Right.
The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit. That we are the children of God.
That we are the children of God. So God says that his children are going to be able to identify with the things that are written in this Bible. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to bring out two secular references real quick, right? Because what we're telling you is that the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the Israelites. That's what we're saying. That's what we're claiming. We got secular references, and we got the Bible that validates what we're actually saying. All right, get right there for so-called Negroes, right? Keep your ears open, Jay.
So from Babylon to Timbuktu, from Rudolph R. Winslow, page 84. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem.
Hey, big bro, when you hear Roman, right? What type of people do you think of?
I think like the gladiator Roman.
Gladiator, right?
Yeah.
Do you think about Asian people when you hear Roman?
Not at all.
What about Arab people?
No.
So what kind of people are we talking about?
Certain race. To be honest, I don't know.
Caucasian, right? We're talking about Caucasian people. When you hear Roman, we're talking about Caucasians, right? So let's read about these Caucasian people, what they did. Go ahead.
In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state.
So now you hear about the Romans, which we know to be a so-called white people, right? And then you hear about Jerusalem and the Jews. You also probably think about white people, right? When you say that, brother, when you hear the term Jewish, you don't think about black people, right? Think about white people, right? So watch this. Let's get some more detail on that Jewish. Go ahead.
Titus put an end to to the Jewish state.
So the Romans came against the Jews and slaughtered them. Read.
With a great slaughter
Uh-huh.
during the period of the military governors of Palestine.
Uh-huh.
Many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people during the period from Pompey to Julius.
How did we get into Africa? Or how did we get into the west coast of Africa? Ask yourself that. How did we get to Nigeria? How did we get to Liberia? So on and so forth. Y'all do your thing, bro. Go ahead.
It has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa.
Hey, brother right here. Have you ever heard of 1 million white people fleeing into Africa?
No.
You never, right? So let's see what this Jews is talking about. Go ahead.
Fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery.
Hey, Stalin. When have you ever heard about white people running away from other white people and fleeing into Africa? You ain't never heard of that. It's not. So what is this talking about? Go ahead.
The slave market.
So you talking about these Jews that fled away from the Romans, right? Was put into slavery. What was the slave markets full of?
The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves.
They were full of what?
Black Jewish slaves.
Hey Jay, did you hear that, bro? The slave markets was full of black Jewish slaves. Did you know that the real Jews are black? You never heard that before?
I mean, Jerusalem is hella hot over there. Everybody dark. Everybody is dark wherever it's hella sun at like that.
But not just dark. These
That's
are
common
so-called
sense.
black people. You know what I'm saying? So if the real Jews were black, that means Christ was black, right? These Jews was put into slavery by the Romans.
The Jews with blue eyes. It's impossible to be from the Middle East and look like that. You're not really from there.
Exactly.
You're really from Europe.
Exactly.
European.
So now watch
Mountains.
this. So why would they claim to be the Jews?
Ours.
Right. So who are the real Jews if they're not? That's the question. You are,
I'm
bro.
saying dark people.
You are a Jew, bro. That's what we're trying to show you.
So what we gonna do about it?
I like that.
Let's get there. Let's get there.
I like that.
Talking about it is, I'm
Right.
just not big on talking.
You're right. You're right.
I'm just not talking.
So now that's just the premise to show you.
Feel me? Like them white people, like one thing I respect about them, they don't talk about shit. Look, they enslaved the whole nation, bro. You gotta have some type of brains and some type of power to do that. Like where were you guys at when we was getting thrown on boats?
Watch this. Now,
You talking about back in?
I'm talking about the black people. Like where were the black people trying to self-hate and save their people? Where were they at?
let me touch that real quick.
Really,
right?
where were they at?
Watch this, right?
Hold on. Black
Go ahead.
people were fighting against themselves in Africa. I'm black, I'm black, I got a tribe. You black, you got a tribe. I defeat y'all and capture y'all people, and I sell y'all to the Europeans.
That goes back to.
But I'm saying that's what they were doing. They were fighting against each other, and they were selling off their POWs to the Europeans.
So that's the
Now that's a fact.
That's like saying Asians sold Japanese people. I mean, Chinese people sold Japanese people. Chinese and Japanese are not the same people. So the black, I'll say this, the black people that sold other black people to white
They
people.
all African.
Nah,
That tribe is different.
no, I'm talking, it's a race. Right.
They're not the same people, right?
Exactly.
Because they were born in Japan. The same people that were born in Chinese would be
Get
Chinese.
yours free.
Yeah, you got what
Yeah, get yours free.
Right.
Hey, Stalin, the Bible is such a specific book to the T that what you talking about, we're going to read, let me say that. We're going to read the transatlantic slave trade. We've heard of that before, right? There were two major ones. We're going to read actually the sub-Saharan and the transatlantic slave trade in the Bible. And what we're going to do is identify who those major players were that sold the children of Israel. It's going to say it. Read.
The book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 1. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem.
So he's going to turn the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. Judah is the so-called blacks. Jerusalem is the so-called Hispanics. He's going to bring us back and set us back into rulership at one point in time. It's going to tell you when, and it's going to tell you what took place to get us there. Read on.
I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat.
Now, why you think Russia, Ukraine, China, who else? Korea, all these nations are fighting over what? Power. He's going to bring them into the valley of Jehoshaphat, which means the valley of decision, which is the Middle East. If you look at the Palestinians and you look at the so-called the Ashkenazis, which are so-called Jewish, what they doing over there? They're fighting over the land, and it's going to show you that in the Bible. So there's a war going on right now, but it's going to escalate to something bigger, and all nations are going to be in that valley. Read on.
And will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage,
My
Israel,
people and my heritage, Israel. Read on.
whom they have scattered among the nations.
You see that? We already identified that we were scattered into the four corners of the earth on those slave ships. Whom they have scattered. So there was people who played a major part in our slavery, in us being scattered amongst the nations. Read on.
And parted my land.
Parted the land between the Palestinians and the so-called white man. That's who's parted the land. They're fighting over the Gaza Strip. That we all can turn on the news and see that. Read on.
And they have cast lots for my people.
That's when you bidding on the people, the children of Israel, casting lots. I'll take 1,200 for this Negro. I'll take 500 for this Hispanic. Right? That's what they were doing. Read on.
And they have cast lots for my people. And have given a boy for an harlot.
So now you have those bucks who was out there breeding to bring forth more bucks. If you was looking like LeBron James, they wanted you to go have sex with all the sisters to bring forth that next line, that bloodline. Right? Go ahead.
And sold a girl for wine.
So now you sold a girl for wine. You see that what they was doing our sisters on the plantation? Either you was taken to another plantation for a couple of bottles of wine, or they was able to drink a couple bottles of wine and then have sex with our sisters. This is all history that's documented not only in the Bible, but historical books that they have now taken away from you. Because this is specifically what took place in slavery, and now let's get to the slave trade. Read on.
And have given a boy for an harlot. And sold a girl for wine.
Read.
That they might drink.
Verse 4. Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon?
What do you have to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon? Those are the Nilotic tribes. Tyre is a Nilotic tribe, and Zidon are Nilotic tribes. What do you have to do with me? Is what God is saying, which means we don't have no establishment. I didn't give my covenant and my laws to you, so you have nothing to do with me. Read on.
And all the coast of Palestine.
Now you have the Arabs who come from Ishmael. Same thing. Yes, you was Abraham's seed, but you did not get my laws, and I don't have that covenant with you. Read on.
Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head.
How did the other nations recompense God? Because you can't get to God. So how do you get to God, right? We know on the streets, if your daddy in jail, who do they go after? The kids. I'm finna knock this kid off because I can't get to him. What do you think the other nations did to us? They couldn't get to God, so who did they go after? The kids. So he says, wait a minute, you paid me back because I wasn't dealing with you. You paid me back because I chose these people, right? So now he's saying, guess what? You think you paying me back by enslaving my kids? But trust me, a bigger payback is coming upon you. Read on, watch.
Because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried it into your temple, my goodly pleasant things.
Verse 6. Here it is.
The children also of Judah.
So the children of Judah, which is the southern kingdom, the blacks, right? The Haitians, the Benjamin is West Indians. That's what he's talking about Judah. Watch, read.
The children also of Judah. And the children of Jerusalem.
Which are so-called natives, the so-called Hispanics. Read.
Have ye sold unto the Grecians.
Stop. So there were some people who sold Judah and Jerusalem, the blacks and Hispanics, to who?
Unto the Grecians.
So now you had Tyre, you had Zidon, who sold the children of Israel to who? The Grecians. The Grecians. That right there, my brothers, is the so-called, or not so-called, is the transatlantic slave trade. So those Nilotics that she was talking about, Stalin, the POWs, guess what? They sold us to the Grecians. They sold us to the so-called white man. It was not the Negroes selling Negroes. It was the Hamites and the Arabs, the Palestinians, selling us to the white man. And now hence you have American slave trade. Now you have us building up the Western Hemisphere. Now you have us building up Spain as slaves. This is documented in the Bible. Now the question is, why ain't the church reading that to us? All of us been to church. Grandma done took you to church at least once or twice. She had you reading the book on Sunday. Go to Psalms 23. In the valley of the shadow of death. But they ain't reading the transatlantic slave trade telling you who you are. Because there's a system set up and designed to keep you asleep. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to wake up the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Because now you say, what are we going to do about it? That's our goal. To wake up the lost sheep. Because we're on a mission here. And the mission will get fulfilled with us or without us. You see what I'm saying? Was that it on that?
Yes.
That's it on that. Go to Genesis 49 real quick. What do we must do? Right? What's one of the goals here? And then I want to tap into how do we stop some of this black on black crime in the community? How do we stop some of this single family homes in the community? How do we build up the men in the community to lead once again like we had before? How do we get back to that point? And if y'all got the answers, please, we're here for dialogue. We're not here to just teach at you. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, read that.
The book of Genesis, chapter 49, verse 1.
Read.
And Jacob called unto his sons.
Jacob is our forefather. His name was changed to Israel. He had 12 sons. That means we are the descendants of those 12 sons. He's addressing them in this particular verse. Read.
And Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together.
Do what?
Gather yourselves together.
No, stay separated.
Gather yourselves together. That I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
Stalin, you heard that? You heard that or you missed it? Because you said what's the solution. Read it again.
Genesis chapter 49, verse 1.
Here's the solution.
No, I don't mean the solution like in the Bible.
But that's the only solution.
No, what is we're going to do?
We touching it. You feel me? We're touching it. You think about history, right? We've tried everything else under the sun except for keeping God's commandments. We tried marching. We tried the Black Panthers and had community projects. We had our own ambulance. We had our own after-school programs. We tried to liberate ourselves. But that didn't get us nowhere. West Oakland is way worse now. East Oakland is way worse now. Stockton is triple times worse now. So what we must try and what we must do is something that we didn't do before. And that's keep the commandments of God in the faith of Christ. Read it again.
Genesis 49, verse 1.
Here's the answer.
And Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together.
You see that? That's what we must do. We must gather together as the children of Israel. Because he's talking to Jacob. Jacob's talking to his sons. We must gather together as the children of Israel. Read on.
That I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
Prophecies. How let the children of Israel show them the things that was going to come upon them in the last days. Show them the conditions they are in the last days. Help them identify who they are in the last days. Verse 2. Gather yourselves together. And hear, ye sons of Jacob. We got to gather together and listen. That's what the Bible's telling us to do. Listen to what the Bible is telling you. When have we ever tried to do everything the Bible's telling us to do? When have we tried keeping the commandments? When have we tried not to be in the midst of adultery? When have we tried not to kill each other? When have we tried that? We haven't, because it's still going on today. You know why we do it? Because we don't know who we are. That's why we do it, because we don't know who we are. If we knew who we were, we'd have value upon ourselves. If we knew we were the sons of God, as the Bible tells us, we would have way more value for ourselves and not look at each other as a spick or a wetback or a nigger. No, that's not who we are, bro. We the kings of the earth, and we're here to set the kings back in order. Right. That's the only way we gonna do it. If anybody got any other solution, please bring it forth. How many after-school programs have been cut? Every one of them, pretty much. Because it gives the children something productive. And now you got kids out in the street selling weed, smoking weed at the age of 8 and 10, having babies. You see the problem? And we gonna identify those things. Trust me, we don't get paid for this. We do this for free because we love our people. We got off work and came here to talk to our brothers and our sisters in the back for free. We're not asking for a dime. We're asking for you to lend your ear and listen to the solutions that will help our people. Zephaniah 2:1. Is that it on that?
Yes, sir.
Yep, Zephaniah 2:1, and then you get what you gonna get. Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 1. We got to gather together first. We have to. But can we gather together? Somebody's a Muslim. Somebody's a Christian, somebody's an atheist, somebody's a 5%er. No, we can't do that because we ain't all under the same mind. We all must speak the same thing. Hey, you know what religion means? Religion means to divide and conquer. It's a Greek word that means religio. We don't subscribe to religion because we're not here to divide. We're here to bring our people together. You see that? Absolutely. That's a good one. That's a good one. Hit that.
Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 1.
You got any questions, bro? I know you seem like you smart, bro. You threw out the Hamites earlier, like you can read a little something. Huh? The history we're taught? Absolutely.
Stalin is right.
You said he's right?
Stalin is right. Yeah, we sort of influence slavery.
Oh, you wasn't listening there either. That one went right over your head, brother. Go ahead and read that.
Zephaniah 2, verse 1.
Matter of fact, who taught us that? Who taught us what you know? Yeah, what you just said, who taught you that? You read that. You didn't read that?
I was told that from my people.
Huh?
From my people.
What part of Africa are you from? From Kenya? You know our people are scattered in Kenya too? Huh? What's your daddy? Yeah. You can't be both. Ah.
So, okay, what's your father on your grandfather on your father's side? Is he Nilo or Bantu? There you go.
Then you're Israel.
Right, there you go.
Then you Israel. Yeah, you Israel. Who told you it don't work like that? The same people that teach us that we Nilotes and Bantus? You know what? Hold on, I got something for you. And I want to hear it. Watch this. Drop that. Get Psalms 83 and 1. Get Psalms 83. And then I want to dialogue with you. We here for that, right? But I know that, trust me, I should think just like you. I've been doing this for 8 years, bro. I used to think I was African too. I'm African. Black pride. Trust me. I was on that too.
Where do you think you're from?
We are from the West Coast. Matter of fact, that's a deep one. Yep, get it. Galatians 4:26.
What is the origin of the so-called black man? Where did he come from?
Right. We're going to answer.
Where did he come from?
Go ahead.
The book of Galatians, chapter 4, verse 26.
Read.
But Jerusalem.
What?
But Jerusalem,
Read.
which is above, is free,
Uh-huh.
which is the mother of us all.
That's where we're from. Yes. Now, I got a question for you. Are they fighting over Kenya? Are they fighting over Nigeria? Or are they fighting over Jerusalem? Where they fighting? Come on, read it again.
But Jerusalem,
Uh-huh.
which is above, is free.
That's your homeland, bro.
Okay, but let me ask you a basic question. Do you know how the transatlantic slave trade works?
Yeah, we do it.
Okay,
Trust me, we do this.
Came from Europe.
Uh-huh. again, and then we're going to get Psalms 83, but get Luke chapter 21, and then we're going to read the history.
All right.
See, a lot of our people don't know the history because we've been taught a particular history by the same people who enslaved us.
I can look at you and tell you exactly where you're from.
No, you can't look at me and tell me. So where he from? That brother right there. The first barber cutting hair.
I'm talking about black people.
No.
I can't tell what-
See, that's that division we talking about. That's your brother.
Okay, maybe he's my brother in Christ.
No. Okay, I see where you at. Read that.
But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all.
Jerusalem is our homeland. That's where we come from. That's what they're fighting over. The people in Jerusalem right now are not the people who are supposed to be there. That's why there's constant war. It will not be peace until the right people, which are the blacks and Hispanics, go back into Jerusalem, which is coming. Trust and believe that. That's why there's wars and rumors of wars on the brink of happening. We just read it that Christ's going to bring everybody in the valley of Jehoshaphat to plead for the Israelites to take us back into our land. Luke chapter 21, verse 20.
Yes, sir.
Watch the history. Because you're right. We did get taken from the west coast of Africa. But how did we get there? Read on.
Luke chapter 21, verse 20.
Read.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies.
Do you know that the Roman armies surrounded Jerusalem in 70 AD? Did you know that history? Yes or no? I'm going to show you what it has to do with us getting into the west coast of Africa. Did you know that took place? Okay, read it again.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
So when the Roman army came in and was going to take over Jerusalem, it was a 7-year besieging. They cut off the water. They starved us out. We was eating our kids. They left us there for 7 years before they took over. Watch. Read on.
Verse 21. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains.
So Christ is saying, look, leave Jerusalem because Roman armies are coming. Flee to the mountains. What mountains was that talking about? That's going into Egypt where there are other black people. Read on.
And let them which are in the midst of it depart out.
Leave. Read.
And let not them that are in the countries enter therein too.
Don't come back into Jerusalem because the Roman armies are going to surround it. Read on.
For these be the days of vengeance. That all these things that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
It had to happen because it was a prophecy. Watch. Where did we go? Read on.
Verse 23. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck.
Because we were eating our kids. It was prophesied in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, verse 53 and 54, that we would be eating our own kids because we were starving in our own land when the Roman army surrounded us. That's why it says, woe unto them that give suck or have a child. Read on.
For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon his people.
Wrath upon the people of Israel. Read on.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword.
Rome was in there killing us by the thousands. If you read the history, it tells you that there was so much blood flowing down the street, it was like a river. Because they were killing us. When we did not flee, when Christ told us to, so therefore we stayed and died. Now, not all of us died, because some of us did listen to the prophecy and leave. Read on.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive, into all nations. Read. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles.
Jerusalem shall be taken by the Gentiles. So we were kicked out. We fled into the interiors of Africa, and guess what? We ran into the Nilotic tribes, who started to enslave us. We started to take on some of their customs. They started to take on some of our customs. That's the way it worked. By the end, we ended up in the west coast of Africa, and guess what? That's where the Nilotics sold us to the Grecians. We already read. So we're not from the west coast of Africa. We got kicked out of our homeland for breaking God's laws.
Watch this. This is a secular reference. Watch this. Watch this. This is a
it's about to show you right here.
secular reference. Touching after we left Jerusalem, fleeing from Roman slavery and persecution.
Where did we go?
This is how we got to the west coast of Africa. But we're not from the west coast of Africa. We started the Jews.
Babylon and Timbuktu, verse 90. Excuse me, page 90. The Jews came into the western Sudan from northern and eastern Africa.
Because we fled to the mountains from Jerusalem in 70 AD when the Romans were coming to conquer us. Go ahead.
As a result of a chain of commercial and persecutory migration.
So when we, persecutory, right, we was fleeing from persecution of the Romans, fled into Africa, further into Africa, into Egypt, and we migrated our way out. Why? Because we were settling. We had to find, we were fine. He's going to read it. Keep reading.
The Jews had settled among the most civilized people.
So we was finding different land. You look for good land, and you communicate with the people, and we settled among the most civilized people. Why? Because we had communication, we made agreements and pacts and whatnot, and we started migrating further into Africa, communicating and setting up civilization. Go ahead.
Throughout the ages, they adopted new methods from other people and left their material, educational, and moral imprint among the people with whom they resided.
It said that as we moved, we left our moral imprint upon the other people whom we resided, right? Because as you learn from people, and if we God's chosen people, we the greatest thing to earth, right? We the smartest. We was building the pyramids, just like there's pyramids over here in North, South, Central America. And they got the same dimension. Because we are, when I say Spanish, all the same people. But when we got to Africa, we fled further into Africa and we set up civilization. And we taught the continental Africans, or the Nilotes, knowledge and understanding. Go ahead.
For many centuries.
For many centuries, brother. Read.
The Hebrews had to...
So what?
The Hebrews.
We talking about the Jews, brother. We talking about God's chosen people. What did we do?
For many centuries, the Hebrews had to employ great physical and psychological initiative.
Meaning we had to really get to work to build up our civilization. Physical and psychological. We had to put our minds together and figure out where we was going to set up shop and get these buildings and structures together and set our people in order. Go ahead.
They could not afford to be complacent.
We couldn't afford to be complacent. We couldn't afford to be just chilling. Why? Because we just got kicked out of our homeland, so we had to regroup. We had to set up shop and rebuild. Go ahead.
Or apathetic. They were hated. So
you said what?
They were hated.
Hey, Stalin. Go ahead. What to say more?
They were hated. So apathy could mean cultural stagnation or death.
When the Hebrews, the black Jews, fled further into Africa, we were hated by all the other continental African tribes. Why? They were jealous of us. They were envious of us. Read that second paragraph.
Yes, sir. The black Jews.
The black Jews, the real Jews, that's what we're talking about. What did they do?
Had an advantage over the African tribes.
The real Jews, the black Jews, the Negroes had an advantage over the Nilotes. And that's why they hated us and ended up selling us to the so-called white man with the Arabs. They hated us. You said what? Brother, Nilotes, the continental Africans, are the original inhabitants of the pretty much. They come from Ham. That's what we're talking about. I know you're talking about the people along now, but guess what? That covers all of the Hamites, because they all fall under the banner of Ham, the son of Noah. We come from the son of Noah, Shem. We are Shemitic or Semitic. We're not Hamitic, we're Semitic. Like when you hear the white people say anti-Semitic, we cannot be. That's why Kanye said what he said. I can't be anti-Semitic. Kyrie Irving said the same thing. I can't be anti-Semitic. I am Semitic, meaning we come from the line of Shem. We don't come from Ham. Go ahead.
The black Jews had an advantage over the African tribes.
The black Jews had an advantage over the Nilotes, had an advantage over the continental Africans. If you don't like Nilotes to cover all, we'll say continental Africans. So the black Jews had an advantage over everybody else on the continent of Africa because we're God's chosen people. Go ahead.
They carried their culture.
We carried our culture we carried the tabernacle of God. We carried our laws, statutes, and commandments that God gave us. Go ahead.
History, laws, and written records with them.
Just like you read in the Bible. That's why everything Stalin ties back to the Bible. We can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. We got to keep the baby and throw out the bathwater. That Christian church and all of its ideologies is that dirty bathwater we got to throw out. Go ahead.
This assured them a constant precedent for the development of a higher social organization.
Hey, Stalin, did you hear that part? Did you hear that part? Because the reason why we as a people are not thriving, you know what I'm saying? As a whole, we got a few of us that'll make it out the hood and whatnot. We set up shop. But as a whole, the reason why we're not thriving is because we stopped doing this. Read that again. They carry it.
This assured the black Jews had an advantage.
And mind you, this ain't the Bible right here. This is the Stalin secular, right? And what did he say about our people? How we move, how we rock. Go ahead.
The black Jews had an advantage over the African tribe.
We had an advantage. When we fled into Africa, further into Africa, we had an advantage over the continental Africans. We were better than them. Go ahead.
They carried their culture,
Come on.
history, laws, and written records with them.
We carried our culture, history, and laws and written records with us. The Bible, bro, we always had it with us. Just like brothers be toting them pistols, guess what? We told the Bible, we told our history. We always had it with us. And that gave us the advantage over everybody else. Go ahead.
This assured them
This assured us what?
a constant precedent for the development of a higher social organization.
We had a higher social organization because we kept our history with us. We understood who we were. We kept the laws of God with us. And we had a higher learning than everyone else. That's why you think the so-called Hispanics came over here thriving. Thriving over here. Right? Great civilization because they kept the history with them. They kept the laws of God with them. But at some point in time, we put the Bible down. That's the problem. We put the Bible down. Now we at the bottom of society.
The autonomous population.
Yeah. Go ahead.
In fact, the Jews absorbed some of the native tribes.
Saying, you know how? What's one of the saying that black people got? We don't die, we multiply. We don't die, we multiply. So we went over further into Africa among these African tribes, and we absorbed some of them because we populate quickly. Go ahead.
The Jews made use of people in the Jewish Ghanaian states were
Where that brother go? Yeah, he left.
No, he right there.
Hey, you ever heard of Ghanaian kings, brother? You ever heard of Ghanaian kings? You never looked that history up, brother? You ever heard of the Mende tribes? Look that history up, brother. Those are God's chosen people. Have you ever heard of the Igbo, the Yoruba? Those are God's chosen people. You're familiar with that, though, right? Exactly. And those aren't the only tribes that are God's chosen people. All throughout the different countries of Africa, there are certain particular tribes that are the real Hebrews that come from the line of Shem, and they're not Hamitic. That's what we're trying to show you. Go ahead.
The Jews made use of every opportunity.
We made use of every opportunity. That's why we had a higher social standing. Go ahead. Hierarchy.
They were an industrious and skillful people.
We were a skillful people, right? Because they tell you we was swinging from trees like monkeys and what. Nah, they said we were skillful people. If we were swinging from trees like monkeys, how in the hell would we have the understanding to come over here and build this land up? You know what I'm saying? How would we have that understanding? Read.
In the Jewish Ghanaian states were found kings, princes,
Come on.
governors.
We had kings, we had princes, we had governors, we had a whole, you said what? Yeah, keep going.
Generals, secretaries, treasurers, revenue, agents, judges.
We understood how to run a nation of people. We thrived in that thing so long as we was keeping the laws of God. But what happened is more? Go ahead.
Architects, engineers.
We had architects. We had people constructing to build buildings. Before we built the building, you had to have an engineer draw out the plan. We understood that. And that's what we had. Go ahead.
Doctors,
We had-
historians.
We had doctors, we had historians. Who ever heard of Josephus? You ever heard of Josephus? You ever heard of Josephus, young brother? Flavius Josephus? Look that history up. That was a brother. Way back in the times of around 70 AD. He was documenting all the atrocities that the Romans did to us during the gladiator times. Because we are the gladiators. Like that movie Gladiator. 300. What's somebody say?
Yeah, he's the brother right there.
Yep.
300.
The Spartans were Jews. The Spartans were Jews. In the movie Gladiator, what's the brother name? The dude named Russell. Who? From 300, right? But in Gladiator, Russell Crowe played an actual man who was a Jew. His name was Septimius Severus. He was actually playing a black man. But you gotta dig that history up. They'll put it to you just to keep us dumbfounded, not knowing that we were the gladiators, those great warriors. That was us.
There was a black emperor of Rome before.
Septimius Severus. He was the first one. When he overthrew Rome, remember at the end of Gladiator, when they was escaping out and whatnot, and they was all overcoming. After he killed the emperor, I forgot the dude's name. He killed the emperor. They all the gladiators broke out and overthrew pretty much the army. That was that's history documenting when Septimius Severus overthrew Rome in 193 AD. That's when we set up the black emperor over Rome, which was Septimius Severus. Go ahead.
That's why they call it the Dark Ages. Right. Because black people ruled.
I always wondered that.
Yeah. The Dark Ages, for sure.
And what age comes after the Dark Age? The Renaissance.
The
Meaning
rebirth.
The rebirth of the white man back in power and earth.
Yeah.
That's the history. There's more on that?
Oh yeah, some more.
Go ahead.
Language interpreters, mathematicians.
It said mathematicians, right? In order to be an engineer, you gotta have some math. You understand? Being an architect and engineer, you gotta know some math. Go ahead.
Jewelers, sculptors,
Yep.
masons, carpenters.
It said masons, like how you got the cement masons, you know, all the different locals and unions, right? We understood that all of that science and understanding on how to build and put things together, build up civilization. We already had that. We already had that social construct. But what happened was, so-called white man came, and when you win the war, right, you rewrite history. The only reason why we lost the war, the only reason why the war took place in the first place is because we stopped following the commandments of God. That's the solution. The reason why we went into slavery is because we broke God's commandments. God's commandments say, thou shalt not kill. We out here, you go to every murder capital in the world, you're going to see black people. Blacks and Hispanics, right? You on that? That's it on that. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna say, you know what that's called today? Well, not particularly today, but what did that sound like when we had all those different mathematicians, doctors, sculptors, jewelers? What did that sound like we set up over here? What do we have that was true? Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Tulsa was just one of them.
Right. You Rosewood.
Like 300.
So God is saying, when we fled into Africa, we did all of that. So when we came over here, we did the same thing. You see what I'm saying? He gave us a spirit back on us to do those same things here, but guess what? Then it got destroyed. You know why? Because we wasn't keeping God's laws. We wasn't keeping God's laws. So I do want to read Psalms 83 because that's heavy how and the young man over there was saying he agreed with Stalin, which is cool. That's his opinion. But we don't understand. There's a system designed to keep us asleep, and the Bible going to tell you exactly who's a part of that system. Read that, and I want to touch some laws. Yeah, you can touch some laws after this. Read that.
Psalms chapter 83, verse 1.
Read.
Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult.
So, contrary to popular belief, God and God's people have enemies. God and God's people have enemies. Let's see what those enemies do. Read on.
And they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
Why do they keep saying that there's people that hate us? Because that's true. That's absolutely true. You look at the gun violence. You look at the police brutality. You look at the brother that just got severed. His spine was taken out. The top of his head was severed. His brain was taken out. What was that? What was the young brother's name? What was that? Huh? In the South. That was just recent. You had a group of men that he worked with. They took him after work. You see what I'm saying? Took him and killed him. And then left all his body parts for his mom who couldn't even identify him. There's people that we don't do that. Now, a black person might just shoot you. You know what I'm saying? He might run up in the house and get you that way. But that type of stuff, there's enemies that do that stuff. Watch, and God gonna tell you who they are. Read on.
For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
Crafty counsel, secret meetings, secret places that we not involved in. I'm gonna give you one of the major ones, the United Nations. Do we have a seat at the United Nations? No, we don't have a seat at the United Nations. The so-called Africans, the Nilotics, they do. But the so-called blacks and Hispanics, we don't have a seat at the United Nations. So we don't know what's going on. We don't know what policies they passing against us. We just know they come out and then they go against us. Read on.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones.
Against thy hidden ones, because our race, our identity, our ethnicity was all taken and hidden. They spend billions of dollars to keep that stuff hidden from you. That's why they always constantly got something new. In 1980, you had or 85, you had a term called African American. Prior to that, we was black. Prior to that, we was Negroes. Prior to that, we was niggas. Prior to that, we was something else. And don't get it twisted, you Hispanics, trust me, there are signs back then, they called y'all dogs. They called y'all Negroes. They called y'all savages. Why every 25 years or 10 years our names change? Read on.
They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation.
Let us cut them off from being a nation. Let's keep them divided. Let's change their names. Let's keep history written the way that we want to write it to keep them asleep. Let's cut them off from being a nation. Let's not let them come back together. Let's not let them identify who they are. This is a nation that has come together in the United Nations to keep us asleep. But our people want to stay asleep. We comfortable here. Because some of us getting money, some of us buying houses, we might be riding the Benz. I might got a fat knot in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? I got 2 bras on the side with 3 of them over there. We think we good. But we not. We waxing worse and worse and worse. If you look at our kids, they waxing worse and worse and worse. We gotta at some point think like, what do we do to change this? Read on.
That the name of Israel.
That the name of what?
Israel.
That the name of Israel
may be no more in remembrance.
That's the name they don't want you to know. That's why they'll let you call yourself a Muslim. That's why they'll let you call yourself a Hamite or an African, Egyptologist. They'll let you call yourself a Mexican. They'll let you call yourself that. But that name Israel, do not let that get out. Here's a great example. What happened to Deshaun Jackson? What happened to Nick Cannon? What happened to Ice Cube? What happened to what's the one you named? Kyrie Irving. Why did they have to take them brothers' networks down? Why did they have to suspend them 8 games? Why did they have to say, hey, bro, let's re-educate you? Because they was letting people know that the name of Israel is who we are. You got to think about that. You catch hell for speaking truth because they don't want that name to get out there. Because they know once we come back, we go into rulership and everybody else goes into servitude. That ain't what I didn't write the Bible. I'm just reading. Read on.
Verse 5.
No, that's it. Oh yeah, keep reading.
For they have consulted together with one consent.
When you come together with one consent, that means there's unity. So the people that come together, there's unity with that. They saying, look, we have to stick together to keep them asleep. Let's see who those people are.
They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom.
So that's a so-called white man, Edom. The name was changed, and I know a lot of people don't know that, but that's a so-called white man. He's called Esau Edom. Read.
And the Ishmaelites.
The Ishmaelites are the so-called Arabs. That's who they are. Read on.
Of Moab.
Moab is the Chinese today. Read on.
And the Hagarenes.
The Hagarenes are the Africans today. Read on.
Gabal.
Gabal
And Ammon.
and Ammon are the Japanese today. Read.
And Amalek.
And Amalek are your so-called Jewish people. Read.
The Philistines
The Africans.
with the inhabitants of Tyre.
And so more Africans. These people are in the United Nations. Now there are more, but these are the people that said, come on, the same people who was involved in that slave trade, we got to keep them asleep. It's the same people.
What is a nation? Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is men leading by example. Nation is women's support. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation is you.